Amongst a sea of a million releases into the mobile market, we had a beta for the upcoming mecha-themed strategy RPG, Mecharashi. This game being developed by Blackjack Studio, which was at least partially responsible for Langrisser Mobile and published by HK Tentree Limited with no previous published games thus far. An interesting tidbit before we dive in is this game was originally supposed to be a gacha under the Front Mission IP, and the studio was sued or is currently being sued by Square Enix, not sure which, for assets that were at the time still being used, but this shouldn't really affect players as this started before the launch. Now basically Mecharashi is Fire Emblem with mechs, more or less. You play on maps to plan out different moves, and when you jump into combat it'll pan in to play out the fight. Mechs vary in weights and weapons, all of which being customizable, and in combat you can break the legs, arms, or body. Arms can be broken so enemies can't use the weapons they're holding anymore, legs for reduced movement, and the body for the kill. It's a neat little feature that I think thematically works perfectly with giant war machines, but this is an SRPG, so if you have healers they can repair the parts. There's up to 3 times speed in auto mode, and you can turn off the Fire Emblem styled battle animations. Not a whole lot else to go over in combat without getting overly detailed, but I do like the customization aspect as skills can change based on the type of weapons you bring in as well as the pilots of your mechs. Next, let's take a look at the story. Without getting into too many spoilers, basically you are a ragtag group of mercenaries trying to unravel a mystery of the world around you that is seemingly always at war. Mecharashi also features English voice acting, which is
What in the world? Check out the size of that thing! That's the Armored Core top dog, Titan! How the heck did the rebels get their hands on it?
I mean, it's fine. It's really not good in my opinion, but it isn't the worst I've ever heard. There is something nostalgic for me personally though about how bad it is without being like humorously bad. But outside of that, I think the story is kind of decent. Like most gachas, there really isn't anything special here, but I thought it was all at least a fun ride, and I was at least partially curious how everything pans out. But it's a typical story involving war, mercenaries, and the intrigue of who can you really trust. Now looking at character progression, we'll look at mechs and pilots. With mechs, they are either lightweight, medium, or heavy. Pilots can only operate mechs of one of these class types. For example, Rosa here uses heavyweight, and we can look at assembly to switch the different parts, which is mostly just for stats and the passive skills they have on them. As well as quality, which is basically a dupe system, but I believe you can use any parts of the same quality and class, which just to get into that real quickly, the S rank pieces can hit a cap of rainbow quality, and the A rank pieces can only cap out at gold 2, which is 2 tiers under rainbow. I'm not about to even attempt to make some kind of meta-analysis in a week-long beta, but that's how it is. At the top right, we can see the weight and power, so this is how much you can equip at a time. Different parts have different capacities, which is more important when we look at weapons. Not sure what dictates who can or can't equip weapons, but it seems pretty open as to what you can use. You'll ideally match these with the passives you end up running, but these vary from melee pile bunkers to snipers and everything in between. You also have a couple shoulder slots where you can attach missile and rocket launchers, maybe even more. I did see one of my characters can use a railgun, not sure if that was just a skill though. Mech parts are upgradable, but I never learned if weapons are as well. I'd assume they are, some say assembled, so I figure crafting weapons will come into play at some point. What's also neat is you can paint your mechs, their weapons, and attach emblems all over that you can move around. Really cool, especially because the game has in-engine cutscenes that apply your color, which can be sometimes kind of funny. Onto pilots, they will come with skills, levels, a skill tree, and some equipable mods. Pilot levels are capped based on your account level, and they are separated by different class types as well, from supports to melee fighters. Skill trees can give pilots a plethora of skills, like early on most will either have a follow-up attack if they're in range, or they'll be able to attack again if they break apart. Neural Drive, you can add different craftable mods, and as you fill up more of the CP, you can get some various boosts like doing an extra follow-up every turn. Only really scratching the surface here, but again, because I won't really be able to gauge how pay-to-win or free-to-play friendly the game is, pilots all have these suitabilities. The base S rank ones, which is the highest rarity, start with Ultimate 1 suitability. This draws out 123% of a mech's stats. The baseline at A rank pilots is only 112%, and this can be boosted with dupes. Maybe other ways as well, not sure, but if it is only dupes, this does mean it will only cap so high for lower rarity units. I wouldn't really judge how accessible the game is off of that though. It'll be more important into endgame to see if these higher masteries will really be necessary. With all that said, it makes sense that we look at the gacha, which is of course split into mechs or pilots, each with their own summon tickets. So the gacha gets kind of confusing, especially the mechs. The base S grade rate of a single part is 1.5%. When you do a multi though, you are guaranteed one full mech, which is 4 parts. The rate of that is 4.5%, so you pretty much always want to do multis. Soft pity for single parts specifically is 38 pulls, and it will boost from there with a guarantee at 55. If it is a full mech, you will keep the soft pity until the next time you pull an S part. Then it talks about guarantee marks, which just confused the shit out of me, so I'm docking them for that one, but my understanding is you accumulate these marks every time you do a multi and get a mech that isn't S rank, and once it hits 9 for the first time, you'll be guaranteed an S rank. Then this number goes up each time, at least specifically for the rate up banners. Speaking of before I confuse any further, the great thing about the rate ups is you are guaranteed the rate up the first time you pull a full S rank mech, and after that it'll be a 60% chance. Basically, to sum up a very confusing system, for the rate ups at least you can hit pity to grab that mech, but if you want to get dupes you will start throwing yourself to the mercy of RNG and whale territory. Regular banners and rate ups share the same tickets as well, which means any ticket rewards will at least be able to go toward future rate ups. I didn't see any coin system either for pulling that is incredibly popular among gacha devs these days, but there is one for the pilot gacha, which luckily is 1,000 times simpler. On the front it claims a 3% drop rate, but in details it'll show 1.5%, so this is probably factoring in guarantees or something. Same soft pity of 38 here and hard pity at 60, but this does not have the guarantee. You're looking at a 60-40, so 60% chance your S rank is the rate up. If it isn't, the next one will be. The system is confusing but pretty decent in my opinion. I especially like the guarantees on the mechs, but these systems are only as good as the amount of summons and currency you can earn in game, which is hard for me to gauge without any real events going on. As far as content goes, I probably didn't hit endgame, but it was pretty much doing the story, which thankfully doesn't cost any stamina, and then burning my stamina in various farm stages to gain upgrade materials, chips for my pilots and their Neural Link, and weapons. The weapons all being very varied as far as drop tables for the different bosses and stages go. Not much to say here. If you like some simple and fun SRPG gameplay, these modes have it in spades, as well as sweeps based on different conditions. Most are just 3-star quests, but some are these boss or wave fights where you have to fight as far as you can go, and you'll get a sweep based on how far you went. Like here, my first try, I cleared 2 of the bosses before time ran out, and I was pretty much nearly dead. Unfortunately, again, I didn't finish the story, so not sure what other endgame modes there will be. Nothing really indicates from menus so far that there is any form of PvP, so it all seems to be a pretty isolated PvE experience. On that topic, I didn't even see any friend or guild features at all, so I'm really wondering if maybe this release is slightly rushed, as if there's truly completely zero interaction with any other players in any shape or form, I can only wonder why this game is a gacha to begin with. But as this is a beta, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, as I feel like a lot of the variety is missing as well, but all in all I'm surprised how much I did enjoy the beta period of the game. Customizing was fun, blowing arms and legs off walking death machines was fun, and if this game finds the right crowd, I think it could potentially have a bright future. If any of what I went over today piqued your interest, the game will be out on PC and mobile devices on July 31st, so just around the corner, and at the very least I'd say to give the game a fair shake, because although a bit bare bones, you might end up just as surprised as I was. Thanks everyone for watching. As always, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.